Hi there. It's 5:15 in Lagos, 5:15 in London. It's 7:15 here in Qatar, and 12:15 p.m. in London, in New York, and 12:15 a.m. in Singapore. Wherever you are connecting with us live, I say welcome to you. Hello, good day. This is After Five at Five. After Five at Five is a live conversation with leaders around the world following the shared Make or Mar moment available on my YouTube channel. On this live session, we've hosted Mr. Mutiu Sumono, chairman of Julius Berger. We've hosted Babs Omotawa, chairman of Monterodo Oil and Gas BV board. We've hosted Willie Bolter, the chief commercial officer of the most profitable airline in Asia. We've hosted Jay Jenkins, the head of Google Cloud Strategy and Evangelism, Mike Ipoki, the MD CEO of African Context Advisory Partners. My guest today is Mr. Atedo Peterside. Mr. Peterside is a man of many parts, but is most popularly known as the founder of IBTC, now Stanbic IBTC. Stanbic IBTC Holdings now employs over 4,000 staff with 2020 revenue close to 230 billion naira. That's about $600 million. The assets of IBTC Holding is for 2020 financial year is estimated to be 2.5 trillion naira. That's over $6 billion. IBTC, Stanbic IBTC Holding is the mother company for Stanbic IBTC business in banking, stock brokerage, investment advisory, asset management, ventures, investor services, pension management, trustees, and life insurance business. Mr. Atedo Peterside, you're welcome. If you're there, we'd like to see you.
Yes, I'm
You're
here.
welcome,
I'm
sir.
here. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. Good to have you on the program. We've we had a make or mar moment some time ago, and it's generated quite some interest, quite a lot of questions, a lot of folks asking questions, follow up questions, and they want to learn even from your experience and tap even from your knowledge, and I'm glad that you are able to and willing, of course, to join us even on this platform to share that. I have a question here. I hope we can dive straight in, sir.
Sure, please go ahead. I mean, I will just listen to your question, so I will not be looking at the typewritten stuff. I will rely on your question and I'll give an answer.
Okay, good. So I'll be reading the question so you can see me. You can see my eyes on the screen. I'm multitasking and getting the questions over to you. So the first question is that you must have made a lot of right decisions to get to where you are. What are some of the decisions you wish you didn't make?
Okay, I think that's a difficult one, but it's impossible for anybody to be an entrepreneur, to do business without making mistakes or without trying some particular projects or ideas which hindsight you abandoned. I'll tell you one, and it was public information. IBTC was an investment bank. We were very successful. Many say it was the most successful investment bank at the time in Nigeria. And we were probably we had done that in about 6, 7, 8 years. Definitely by the time we were 9, 10 years, we were looked at as number one by people rating merchant banks in Nigeria. Then federal government was trying to sell what is now known as Transcorp Hotel in Abuja. So we put together a consortium and we put in a bid for it. And we were the second highest bidder. But guess what? As soon as we heard the bids announced, we knew that the highest bidder was not going to pay because he was overbidding and looked to be a bit reckless. So we knew that we were a reserve bidder, and in all probability, we wouldn't be able to raise the money and pay. And that expectation came to pass. So we thought as the reserve bidders, when I say a consortium led by IBTC, got in a few investors, and we went to bid for it. Somewhere along the line, we got the impression that it looked as if our bid was too audacious in the eyes of some people in government. So it looked as if they had a problem allowing us to win the transaction. So we got the message. We had wasted lots of time, lots of resources. Eventually, I pulled the plug. When I say I pulled the plug, I mean that when we were getting into more and more negotiations, the goalpost always shifting. One day I got up and said, hey, you know what, guys? Enough is enough. You can keep your hotel, give it to who you like. I'm taking my bags and I'm going home. So hindsight, we should never have gotten involved at all. But let me also add one thing quickly. There's nobody who does not make mistakes. What is important is how you recover from your mistakes. The reason that we pulled the plug, at least I pulled the plug as the CEO, was because I realized that we were going down a slippery slope, and it looked as if by the end of the day, we would be wasting our time and resources. So that's just one example. So, so the issue is not whether you make a mistake, how you recover from it, or sometimes more importantly, when do you decide that it's time to cut your losses? Because some people in the consortium disagreed with me, saying, oh, we've come this far, we spent so much money, you can't walk away now. So I said, watch me. I am walking away. And we walked away. We were the head of the consortium anyway. We put it together. We were the largest player in the consortium. I was the CEO. So if I say I'm pulling the plug and we're leaving, fully backed by my management, that's the end. So that was cutting your losses before they mounted endlessly. And to today, I've had no regret.
How much did you lose in the transaction, in the deal?
To be honest with you, I can't remember. And with Naira is tricky. If you mention an amount of money from 15 years ago, today it sounds like a tiny amount of money. But to put it in perspective, that deal must have cost us about at least between 5 to 10 million Naira at a time when the exchange rate was probably nearer 100 Naira to $1. You understand me? But that was not, but it wasn't the money. It was the realization that we might be wasting our time. And it's time to cut our losses, go back to banking, which is the business which was the core business. If you want, I can give you a second example and a third, but there's no need. That's one major example, and it was public information. That's why I used that one.
So still on that question, your regrets or your looking back and saying you shouldn't have been part of that transaction, was it because the goalpost was changing, which you perhaps didn't know it was going to change before you entered into it? Or is it because you were diversifying or you were getting out of your area of competence?
Sorry, let's keep it very simple. You should not knowingly going into something that may be a total waste of your time. So the mistake was that we judged wrongly. You understand me? And once I realized that we were wasting our time, we pulled the plug. Forget about how much you've already spent. That is a sunk cost in economics. The money you've already spent, you will not get it back. Some people start digging deeper and deeper, thinking, I can't afford to lose 10 million, so let me throw out another 1 million or 2 million, and you just continue. That's why I call it a slippery slope. If you want, I can give another example that is totally different. That might be more interesting than flogging the same one example.
Okay, before you give another example, a question that here says, as a businessman, how do you know when to pivot or persist?
Yeah, you see, that's a very good question, because many people actually get into the game of deceiving themselves. They cannot look in the mirror and tell themselves the truth. You've got to have a perfect understanding of your strengths, your weaknesses, and be able to estimate the probability of success in whatever you are doing. So what I was really saying is that as soon as it became clear that the probability of success on that transaction was heading towards zero, I'm getting out of there immediately. I don't believe in wasting my time. By my nature, I can never bring myself to bang my head against a brick wall. I'm still not going to do something else. So the point I'm making is that a businessman, even an uneducated businessman, all the time does two things subconsciously. They're always in their head calculating a risk return trade off. Even the roadside hawker, in deciding which road he should go and stand, is doing a calculation about the risks of being on that road and the possible returns from being on that road. That's why you find that hawkers choose some popular spots where they know there will be traffic, where they know that the police will not shoot them or kill them, or the army is not going to flog them. So it's about risk and return. The other way to look at it is saying the same thing in different language. It's about cost and benefit. A good trader in the market understands cost and benefit in their head all the time, even when they didn't go to school. So you don't have to be very well read to be a successful businessman. There are many stark illiterates who have been very successful in business. In their head, they're doing cost benefits all the time. And whenever the benefits look to be small, this is the cost, they abandon it. Now, so some of us are lucky. We went to school. I'm an economist. So in a classroom, you talk about cost benefit analysis. You talk about risk return trade off. But those things some people know instinctively. And I think every entrepreneur knows it instinctively. I see myself as an entrepreneur. So for me, going to school or going to university and learning those things from first principle simply reinforced what I already understood and believed as an individual.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that, and for shedding very good light even on that experience. So I have messages from Bolu Opaniro. Say glad to see Mr. Atedo Peterside. Got a lot to learn. Olakpade Oluwafemi says glad to be here. We're glad to have you. Jordan, put an emoji there. Blue Bonded says what you're saying is true. Johnny Doe says glad to be here. Glad to have you all here. Please join the conversation and ask a question to Mr. Peterside. He's happy to provide answers even to your questions. He's told me that we should bring difficult questions in, and he's happy to provide answers. If you're just joining us, this is After 5 at 5. My guest today is Mr. Atedo Peterside. Mr. Peterside founded what is now known as Stanbic IBTC, a leader in the financial services industry in Nigeria and part of the largest bank in the African continent. He's been sharing his experience as an entrepreneur. I think that's where we started from, and this is being streamed live even on my Twitter account, on my Facebook account, on my YouTube account, on my Instagram account. I'm not sure we're able to get your Instagram, your handles to stream this. Were we?
I don't think so. You gave me a link and I posted it, and then he said it was the wrong link, and I did not get anything more from you. So I had nothing more to post. So I deleted that old link.
Okay, okay. That's fine. That's fine. Thank you very much. I go to the next question. It says that I run a business with approximate 60,000 turnover per month. I just increased my revenue, but my cost has even gone higher than my revenue. How do I curtail my costs?
You see, that question is loaded, because I think everybody, when you say the economy is going through a difficult time, that question mimics what many people are going through. Difficult times mean people find their costs are rising at a faster rate than they're even able to increase their prices. So it's like the margins are being squeezed. So it might be one person asking a question, but it is relevant to to thousands, if not millions of people. Conversely, in a boom period, your revenues and your prices are rising faster than your costs. Now, what I would advise you is that you've got to, there's nothing wrong in your cost rising faster than your revenues temporarily, but it cannot go on forever. If it goes on forever, you're heading towards bankruptcy. So sometimes early warning signs, and it's probably a good thing that the person asking the question has observed it early. Early warning signs give you a chance to reappraise. Am I in the correct business? Do I need to change strategy? Do I need to do something else? What do I need to change to contain this cost? If you then find that every single thing you can do legally and lawfully is not going to arrest the problem, then you're more or less concluding or seeing that perhaps you are in the wrong business. But let's be very careful. When I say the wrong business, you can be in a particular activity, but you are at the wrong end of the activity. Sometimes shifting a little within the same activity may solve the problem. Sometimes shifting geography a little. Sometimes, the human side. So there are little tweaks you can do that can make a difference. But if everything you can think of does not make a difference, and it looks as if that trend is continuing, then you better tell yourself the truth and get out of that business. And because it is possible. Look, there are several businessmen. The business they are known for, which is phenomenally successful, is not their very first business. For many of them, their very first endeavor even failed. It is the second or the third that they went into with the lessons they learned from the first that transformed them. So it's a mistake to persevere in error.
Good. Excellent. So I can see comments here. You are live on Instagram. Oh, I think your account is actually live. I can see a comment here. Someone says you are live on Instagram. Good evening, Akin Monehin, Atedo Peterside. Yes, thank you. Okay, you haven't missed a lot. You're welcome. Kehinde Olufisayo Peter, glad to be here. Glad to have you here. So someone says that I work for an organization similar to IBTC where there are lots of talents. How do you advise that I survive in this competitive environment? So essentially, they have very, good folks that as colleagues. So how does he or she survive in such an environment?
You see that there are two things I would say here. The first one is that you've got to be careful what you wish for. It sounds as if the person is mentioning the person questioning is asking that place I'm in is too competitive. There are many of us who are good and we're all struggling. At the end of the day, only a few of us can rise to the top. What do I do? When I say be careful what you wish for, it sounds as if the person is in a merit-driven organization. If it's a merit-driven organization, that is probably a good thing, for as long as the progress is there for scientific and based on accurate appraisal. When I say be careful what you wish for, do you really want to move to an organization where what determines your progress has nothing to do with merit, but more like where you come from, which church you go to, which mosque you attend? What if you now join that organization? It's less competitive, but you don't belong to the right mosque, or you're from the wrong part of the country? There's some things you cannot change. You cannot change where you were born, what family you were placed in. God determined those things. So be very careful as you walk into a place where the things you cannot change are the most important factors. People who worked in IBTC knew from day one in 1989 that the most important factor was their contribution towards the shared vision, or how they performed on the job. So things they could control. I don't care where you came from. Where you came from is your own business. I even have a problem remembering everybody's name, much less remembering which village you came from. Give me a break. How does where you come from become relevant? I'm not very good with names and faces. So if I've managed to know Akin and you're working for IBTC, first name basis, most times I didn't even know the surname. If I can't remember your surname, how can I remember where you came from? You just said now that Stanbic IBTC has 4,000 staff. I don't expect the group CEO, Demola Sogule, who incidentally I hired when the bank began, I think he joined in 1990 when the bank was 1 year old. Do you really expect him to remember where 4,000 people remember their first name? That's good enough. Probably you can try. Then surname, and then where each person came from. I mean, so it depends, but you'll be sadly, we're in an environment and in a country where some people place a phenomenally high premium, even in business, in where you come from. So I'm just saying that let's be careful what you wish for. If a place is competitive and you think you cannot marry up to your colleagues, so therefore you're at the back of the class, perhaps you can go to a place or another, find another organization where there are not so many superstars. But my warning is that be very careful how you join an organization that has many weak people, because it may well collapse. This is why I said be careful what you wish for.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Olapade Oluwafemi says, I'm learning a lot. Yes, so I am as well. A question here says that what advice do you have for an upcoming entrepreneur with regards to raising capital?
Yes, the first advice I'll give to any entrepreneur is that there's a popular misconception that the most important things entrepreneurs need is to be able to raise capital. I know when I say it, people think it's controversial, but hey, even from my own personal experience, some of the wealthiest people in this world began with $1. What made them wealthy was that they knew how to how to convert $1 to 2, and then 2 to 4, 4 to 8, 8 to 16. So when you hear about all these people, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, they began in a garage. It is true. They began in a garage with nothing. The recipe or formula for success is knowing how to convert $1 into 2 and 2 into 4. It is not about being able to, on the first day, get a loan of 10 billion. Indeed, most businesses that start that way generally don't do very well because they don't get the chance to make their mistakes and learn from their mistakes with small sums of money. The best businesses make all their errors when they have very little money. So by the time they now scale up, they've known their onions. If you start off with a huge amount of financing, you're going to make your mistakes with large sums of money. I tell you what, your creditors will not have the patience. They'll take over your business. They'll kick you out. That's why you find that all over the world, there's a constant struggle between initial entrepreneurs and the investors they bring in. Bring in big money. If you don't deliver phenomenally, you're out of the place. They take it over from you. It even happened to Steve Jobs in Apple, if you remember. He was kicked out at a point. So be very careful because, money may sound like, when you don't have it, it may sound like it solves all problems. But please believe me, taking other people's money into your business also opens you up to all kinds of possibilities and risks.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Before I go to the next question, I like to just deep in that a bit. So there, and it's true. I mean, it's the ability to turn $1 into two, $1 into two.
To multiply what you have is the critical skill.
Yes, indeed. However, there's still some SMEs that they've reached a stage where they actually need funding. They need capital, and it's so challenging. It's quite challenging to get loan as an SME, from the Nigerian banks. What are your thoughts concerning that?
Yes, look, I'll be honest with you. It's not Nigeria alone. If you want to rely on other people's money, let's get one thing straight: the money is not yours. Other people's money. Once you're relying on other people's money, they're going to have they decide who they give it to, when, how, and why. So at that point, you're not in charge of the decisions. If you're in a good environment where small sums of money are easy, fine. But please, again, I would mention that let us broaden it to capital. Don't just say loan. Sometimes what a business needs is some financing. I know many people, they needed a loan, they couldn't get a loan, so they took on board an angel investor. That is, they found somebody to come in and invest in the equity in their business. So financing is financing. In fact, sometimes some people will tell you that equity is better than loan. Because if you have a good angel investor who believes in you and gives you money, probably the terms under which he gives you financing will be a bit more pleasant than a bank that is divorced from you completely, and rules are rules, and there's a due date, and if you can't pay, you're in default and all that. So I know many people through my career as a banker whose biggest regret was taking finance on difficult, on onerous terms that made them lose their business completely to receivers, and conversely, many people have told me, even when I was a young loan officer in the bank, I don't want to name names, but they're in Lagos. Some have come to me and said, you know what you did for me? I said, what? I remember when I came for a loan in Now Merchant Bank, and you were the loan in charge of lending, and you turned down my loan because you told me that thing I wanted to do, you didn't think it was viable and it was bankable. But that was the best thing you did for me, because I now realize that had I raised money and done it, I would have ruined myself. So there are also stories like that. Conversely, there are also, I bet you, I'll be realistic. There are stories of people who also believe that it was the lack of financing that made their business die. So it's on both sides. But what I'm just pointing out is that money is important, but it's not the only thing. The number one thing that the entrepreneurs should have is the ability to multiply whatever resources they have. It's the ability to convert 2 into 4.
Thank you very much, sir. If you're just joining, this is After 5 at 5. My guest today is Mr. Atedo Peterside. Mr. Peterside founded what is now known as Stanbic IBTC, a leader in the financial services industry in Nigeria. Stanbic IBTC is part of the largest bank in Africa, and he's been sharing his experience as a businessman, as an entrepreneur, as a leader, and how he develops himself. This is being streamed live on my Twitter account, my Facebook account, my YouTube account, my Instagram account, and Mr. Atedo Peterside's Instagram account as well. Blue blooded. Your question is not okay. It's not complete. Okay, so let me read. It says it's amazing what Stanbic IBTC has achieved in the financial sector over the years. Thank you, Mr. Atedo, for all you do. I'm an undergraduate student in the university. We started an investment club where we teach students investment banking, private equity, financial modeling, etc. We want to create a more practical experience. Our members are top students from econs, finance, accounting. Is there a way we can partner with your company? Oh, okay. So students can apply what they learn through volunteer internship. Question to you.
Let me give a straight answer, because I'm not somebody who believes in dancing around. I tell you the truth. Look, you said I'm the founder of Stanbic IBTC. I'm not in Stanbic IBTC today. I'm not the director of Stanbic IBTC. I'm not on the board. So he's got to go to Stanbic IBTC directly. And I don't know what answer they will give him, but they should make the approach. Send a proposal, make a presentation, go there, try your best. I know when I was CEO, all kinds of, hey, I mentioned Demola Shogunle, who is the group CEO today. You know how he got a job in Stanbic IBTC? Essentially, he walked in off the street, or he responded to an advert saying, we are hiring. If you don't approach people, you don't know what they might tell you. So make the approach. So the current CEO of the Stanbic IBTC Holdings was a total stranger. I can even tell you he was in Ibadan somewhere, not even in Lagos, when he heard that, a bank called IBTC in Lagos is hiring people. And he put himself forward. He knew nobody there. Today, he's now the group CEO. So make an approach, put your best foot forward. And who knows whether they will decide to get involved in what you're doing.
Okay, so I have a question here. I'll paraphrase from Emmanuel Oloronshola. It says you started IBTC Bank at the age of 33. How were you able to focus at that age? Perhaps it's an age where folks don't have that kind of maybe dream or vision. How are you able to get yourself to think of, starting a bank?
Okay, so let me tell you a real life story, Akin. In Nigeria, people were shouting I was 33, I was 33, I started the bank. If you look at my CV, I registered for the owner president management course in Harvard Business School. This was about 5 years after I began IBTC. When I got there for that owner president management program, which was over 3 years, but you came in the summer, the first engagement I had, because they make you write everything about yourself and your business and all. So when everybody in Nigeria was shouting I was 33 and I was very young and so on, I think you'll be surprised to hear that the first professor I sat down with in charge of human aspects of business, do you know what his first question was to me?
What was it?
Why did you start so late at 3? Hey, I was shocked because in Nigeria they were all shouting that I was very young. I was the youngest. He said, why did you leave it so late? I gave him the answer that I couldn't have done it earlier. He said, why? I said, because the rules required that to be a bank CEO, accepted as a bank CEO by CBN, you needed 10 years banking experience. So I started working at 22. So it was when I turned 32, I had my 10 years experience complete, that I could apply for the banking license. You know what the guy said? He said, no wonder. That he knew there was a good reason why I left it so late. So I had convinced him that I did it at the earliest possible time. So that now, he then went on to explain, he said, because entrepreneurs usually don't wait that long to start doing what they want to do. And if you look at it, check out all those people whose names are household names today. Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, they all began younger than that. What younger? In Nigeria, somehow, I think the older generation have convinced some of the youth that they are too young to do something. It's not true at all. And it's happening anyway. You're seeing the youth in fintech. You're seeing them in various sectors. So that the point I'm making that don't buy into that narrative that 30 is young. For entrepreneurs, it's not young.
Yeah, so that brings me to the next question by Hazy Black. It says, with what is happening in Nigeria now, do you think it is still easy for youth in Nigeria to make it legally?
You see, interestingly, that I answered the question and then this other question by coincidence they must have hit themselves at the same time, because I just finished saying that some young people are doing very well in fintech and other sectors, and it's asking me whether it's possible. Let me give the answer that connects the two. It is. See, I've said it repeatedly. Most things in Nigeria are rigged. When I say rigged, I give an example. With due respect, I don't think you and I expect that we can walk into Abuja and get a contract to put up a building for a ministry. We believe we won't get it, even with our best submission, because we believe it is rigged. We could be wrong, but I'm going to let you know is that we won't even bother because we believe it is rigged. So many things are rigged in Nigeria. Now, if you're a young person and you don't have what it takes, you should know those activities and sectors which are rigged, which is a waste of time to go there. They actually mean to deceive you, make you think that you have a chance. They're actually using you. In business, it's called using somebody almost like a stalking horse. They have a candidate. Let's imagine the farm tech and has a business partner or a cousin who is going to get this contract. But they have to be seen to open it up to everybody else. So you now come and waste your time and money. At the end of the day, the guy they give it to their friend. That's a waste of time. So if you're a businessman and you're streetwise, you will know instinctively that those things are a waste of time. They don't mean it, they don't mean well for you. So you have to limit yourself to those activities which are not rigged, where you have a chance to compete. You see, many people are traders. In the marketplace in Ibadan or Sandhurst in Lagos, it's more difficult to read if anybody's competing. It's like a level playing field. So youth generally do better in Nigeria in those activities where it's a level playing field. Fintech was like a level playing field. Even banking is not all that level because At the end of the day, the authorities could have refused to give IBTC a banking license. But then, hey, but we tried, made all the arguments, put up a good case, and we got a license. As a general rule, regulated businesses in Nigeria have been made increasingly difficult for the youth to participate because those businesses increasingly are rigged in favor of a few people who with good connections and all that, which is tough on the youth. But hey, that's only one side to the economy. The economy is huge. You see, that's why people are doing so well in the creatives. If you are in the business of fine arts, you're an artist, who is going to rig things against you? One of the, I think a young Nigerian artist, Njidiaka Akin I think her cheapest painting today in America sells $1 million, more than $1 million. So which means that it's an activity where your talent or will take you somewhere. Okay, take music industry. Go and try and rig it, and let me see whether you're because your uncle is somebody, you will make everybody to like your song. Those are difficult things to rig. So let's not kid ourselves that everything can be rigged. They can rig things that involve patronage, which rely on where there's room for patronage. But there are many activities where, luckily, as much as they try and rig it, they won't be able to succeed. But it is sad that the youth have to confine themselves to some sectors of the economy. Because it should not be that way. You should have your right to compete for everything, which is what obtains in many countries. But all I'm saying is that don't give up because some sectors are rigged. Stay away from those sectors so that you don't go in there, waste your time. And hopefully, I think there's still enough in the rest of the economy. Look at how people create new products every day, things that didn't exist before, even in Nigeria. All kinds of ventures that are being created. And I think also the mindset of, I'm going to get a good job, has almost been destroyed. Because at the end of the day, how many people will get a good job? Most people are beginning to realize in Nigeria that their salvation comes from being self-employed. But there are going to be many, many more people self-employed doing one thing or the other than the handful who are going to be able to get a job. Because even when they're giving out jobs, especially government jobs, the process is rigged, invariably, in most states and at the federal level.
Interesting. I have a question here by Adewale Adeniyi. He says that it was asking what led to the merger of IBTC with Standard Bank, and what should entrepreneurs look for generally when they're considering partnering with others.
Okay, the measure of IBTC and Stanbic. First of all, let me put some things very clear on the table because when a number of years pass, people get confused. Like you just said, IBTC was in financial services. At the time of the merger, IBTC was the #1 investment bank in Nigeria. At the time of the merger, IBTC was the largest, you can put it down, stockbroker in Nigeria. At the time of the merger, IBTC Pension Managers was the largest pension fund in Nigeria. So I don't want anybody to think that it was Stanbic that made IBTC the biggest player in pensions. It was already the biggest player. So what Stanbic was paying a premium to buy into a company that they had seen was the biggest player in pensions in Nigeria. Buy into a company that was the biggest stockbroking firm in Nigeria. So they were buying into local success. It wasn't a case of, because sometimes a merger is done to rescue somebody who is failing. And that's why even in South Africa, there was some controversy. Some of the financial press and some shareholders there felt that Stanbic or Standard Bank was paying too much. The valuation was too high. They were saying, how can you pay so much money for one small Nigerian bank called IBTC? But they knew what they were paying for. They were paying to come into the largest player in pensions in Nigeria, and Nigeria is the biggest country in Africa. So you have to pay for that market share and so on. So I'm just going to point out that the merger I've answered why Standard Bank or Stanbic would want the merger. On the IBTC side, to be honest with you, it was not true that my desire was to build a bank and keep it independent forever. I can tell you why, and it's an honest truth because I will never deceive people. My desire was to build a bank, get it to a point, and make sure that it was on a sustainable path and will be there and strong and going forever. If you think about that very carefully, keeping it to the original IBTC, where I was the largest shareholder, and I was the CEO and so on. If I wanted to keep that model going forever, the burden on me and myself would have been phenomenal. More so in a country where, like I said, it's a regulated business. All kinds of issues will come up. You make a comment on something political, somebody is calling you, they are saying, oh, but your bank is getting to doing this, the bank is doing that. So they won't even allow you to breathe between your person and your institution and so on. So for me, in any case, how long would I do something? If I tell you the truth, originally my intention was to be the CEO from 1989 until 2005. 2005 would have been when I turned 50. So my plan was that at age 50, I would step down from being the CEO, move on to become the chairman. And by that time anyway, I would have had several people in the organization who were ready and right to be CEO. I already had the deputy. I was more than qualified to be a bank CEO. So my plan was to move out by 2005. So the idea was to build an institution that is built to last, with a firm foundation. Thereafter, it can almost continue on autopilot because it has structures, it has because it has a solid foundation. What then happened was that just before that, in 2004, if you can remember, where the UCBN governor Soludo, who suddenly came and said, "For everybody had to raise 25 billion, you had to." He said we were all become universal banks. We could no longer be investment banking. So there was so much disruption. I knew that there was no way I could live again as planned 1 year later, especially since I brought in more money from investors. I mean, how can you really bring money in from investors before they tell them goodbye? It doesn't work that way. So I had to stay for at least a couple more years, bed everything down. And then the opportunity came and we were thinking about the longer term strategy. And I think between Standard Bank, which is Stanbic, and IBTC, there was a meeting of minds. There was a shared vision. They were the largest bank in Africa, but their presence in Nigeria was small. We had some businesses in Nigeria where we had phenomenal prospects. So it was a win-win. And for me, also, it was a perfect exit. The same day I stopped being CEO of IBTC in 2007 after the merger, that same day I became chairman of the bank. So which means that the headache of running the bank 24/7 was no longer mine. I've done it for 18 years. And if you think that is short, let me tell you, 18 years is long. I think I've said it before that a month after I stopped being CEO, I went to London and there was a story that the longest serving CEO on the top 100 companies, FTSE, had just retired. So the CEO of Tesco. Guess how long they had done? 14 years. I'd done 18. Here they were asking me, how are you living so soon? 18 years is so soon. So the point I'm making is that it was always about building an institution, going into whatever arrangement that will keep it the way you had in mind and the vision you had, and to protect the staff who had given their lives to the institution, make sure they had a stable career path and they could grow thereafter. Today, IBTC staff are holding positions in Johannesburg, holding positions in Mozambique, and all part of a bigger group. So they could grow as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Mr. Peterside. Thank you for your responses. If you just join in, this is After 5 at 5, and my guest today is Mr. Atedo Peterside. He's been very gracious, sharing very personal experiences, and just just engaging us in a very interesting way. I'm mindful of the time now. I can see we're approaching 1 hour. I have a few questions here, and I'll just read them out to you. If you can just touch on them very quickly. Frank says small factories are shutting down. He's inclusive. He's talking about accessing funds, reasonably priced funds. He said funds are rigged. Ezekiel says, "What can anyone can anyone be a businessman, or are there some special attributes?" Kehinde Olufisayo.
Okay, so let's take them one by one. Okay, let's take this one about can anybody be a businessman? I think that's an excellent question, because many young people ask me that they have a job in an environment where jobs are scarce, they have a good job, but they think they want to start a business like I did, and they are telling themselves, in an environment where there are no jobs and I have a good job, should I leave it and venture out to go and start a business, or should I hang on to my job? That's something that everybody asks themselves all over the world. You see, but what I want to point out is that, this is why I said you should be able to look in the mirror and tell yourself something. If you were entrepreneurial, when I began IBTC, I said I worked somewhere for 10 years now, merchant bank. So I had a good job. In fact, when I told some people I was leaving that good job to go and begin a bank of my own, they thought I was crazy. You have a good job, you have a good future, you're like an acting general manager, you want to throw it all away to go and begin a bank from zero. What if that bank collapses? Now, because by nature, I felt I was entrepreneurial, actually. If I never tried to start IBTC when I did, or if I did not pursue that urge, I would have been regretting for the rest of my life. So somebody who is truly entrepreneurial and knows himself or knows herself and discovers herself will know that at the end of the day, I will never be satisfied with myself unless I try to go out and create a company. Even if I fail and then go back to pay the employment, at least I will know that I pursued that urge, as opposed to if that urge was there throughout my life and I never pursued it. Now, that involves being truthful to yourself, because please, everybody cannot be an entrepreneur. Because entrepreneurs have employees. So for every one entrepreneur, there must be many employees. Now, some people must tell themselves the truth, which is that I can never be an entrepreneur. I want to wake up in the morning and have a guaranteed salary. I don't want to carry the risk of how much money I have is a function of my revenues, less my costs, which could be negative, and this and that. No certainty for my salary, I have school fees to pay. So you have to be able to discover yourself, because we're all different. Some people are entrepreneurial, some people are not. And it is the biggest mistake. I've said it before, I think with you earlier, that like Olympic Games. Olympic Games, there are many events. If Usain Bolt went for 100 meters, he didn't go for high jump. You must discover yourself and know what you think you are good at. You don't make the mistake of going for skydiving if you're afraid of heights. Same with, so that depending on what kind of person you are, please, if you have a good job and you're the type who believes that you're risk averse, you're happy with your good job, please keep that job. On the other hand, if you're somebody who you know in your heart of hearts, you will never be happy unless you tried to be an entrepreneur. Even if you fail, it's better. Then at least you know you tried what you wanted to do. So it meant that at the end of the day, I was ready for IBTC to fail and then go back to pay the employment than to think that I will never try and form an IBTC.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Very interesting perspective you've shared there. I'll read a couple more questions. It says, please, sir, what advice can you give me? I spent money writing ICANN exam and I qualified before I graduated. After NYSC, I went into ERP software development with little money. I stayed from NYSC, but I have not gotten a job and I don't have money again to start business. Advise me.
Yeah, that one is tough. All I would say is that please never stop looking. When I say never stop looking, see, some people get despondent because everything is going wrong. You think it's all over. My experience is that there's always some light at the end of the tunnel. It's not completely over. It has a lot to do also with your spiritual beliefs. You follow me? Some people will tell you that they will never believe that all is lost forever and ever. Some people will tell you that they always believe that no matter how bad it is, that perhaps tomorrow they will wake up and there'll be a lucky break. I think if you keep yourself going, you've got to believe that there might be a lucky break. And please believe me, what I learned in my career, that there are many lucky breaks out there. You may not see them, you may not find them. Don't be too rigid in the sense of thinking that, like, take an example of even IBTC. I remember when we decided to go into pensions, you told me, are you guys crazy? Why don't you stick to your investment banking, what you know? But guess what? We're the biggest today in pensions by far in the country. So the point I'm making is that don't put yourself in a straitjacket and think that there's only one path, because there may be a different path. One of my favorite sayings is that sometimes in life, I think it comes from a Yoruba proverb, the thing you're looking for in Sokoto is in your Sokoto, is in your thought, but you can't see it. So sometimes you are trying too many things with all your qualifications, and suddenly the guy next door to you starts doing a very simple thing, and it starts making a fortune. He opens your eyes. I don't always think that the best ideas always require plenty of money. We don't have the time to go into it, but I guarantee you, I know a very huge businessman today. The first business he was doing was selling lace cloth. Like if there's a wedding, he'll come to you as be, try and sell as be, and so on. That's what he was doing for a living. People do all kinds of things to start, and then they go on from there. So there will always be some little thing you find you can do that may keep body and soul together. And let me also remind you that the majority of Nigerians are self-employed. Sorry, but not by choice. That is, they have no job anyway. So they are doing something to keep body and soul together. They are their own employers. Even if somebody is a laborer and he has no job, what is he? He's a self-employed laborer because he's going around offering his skills as a laborer, which you may contract for one day, pay him and send him away. He goes to the next building site, offers himself, and so on. So he has no employer, he's self-employed. There's so many people like that who package themselves so that they sell the services. If he was in a structured country like the UK, he would have to file returns as self-employed. So that more and more people now are self-employed. Not by choice, I'll be very honest. They tried looking for jobs and there were no jobs. So they thought, okay, I must do something to keep body and soul together.
Okay, so I see a couple of questions here, a few questions here talking about youth and being a leader, and I would just like to move to the to the Nigerian state. You know, the NSAS protests, the anniversary of the shooting, as it were, the anniversary of the shooting, as it were. Is a couple of days, I think 3 days from now. What message do you have for the Nigerian youth, even at this time?
You see, I'm a firm believer in Nigerian youth. I think we're in the mess we are partly because the elder generation have not created an environment for our youth to thrive. But the truth also is that this has happened in many countries before. Nobody's going to come and hand power over to you on a plate if they come and take it. It doesn't work that way. You've got to become politically active. So I think many Nigerian youth need to become politically active. I think for many people, NSAS was monumental. It was the first time that for many youths, it was the first adventure in being politically active. It was not a wasted experience. Everything you do, that's the first step. What matters eventually the subsequent steps? What lessons did you learn from that first step? I think there are very many important lessons. The most important lesson I learned from NSAS was that whereas some people said, oh, today's kids can never be politically active, their only interest is, sort of deride them and so on. I think NSAS showed that they could become politically active. As an extent to which you push people, they realize that they must have to find a way to become politically active. But having said that, I don't believe, I said earlier, I don't believe in hitting my head against a brick wall. I will never tell people, young people, to go and do something that I won't tell my children to do. If you remember the Lekki toll gate, I have gone out public pleading with the youth to leave that place. But I thought you have been there long enough, you've made your point. Withdraw before something terrible happens. Today, I will also warn people that, look, take June 12th. It was 1993, not so. We were fighting for June 12th and everything. How many years did it take before federal government woke up and now declared June 12th a public holiday? I think about how many years later? Even M.K. Abiola had died. So it's not true that the only way that you remember something is to go back every single day or every single year to the exact same spot and risk being killed again. Come on, there are better ways of doing something. So my advice is that if I won't tell my children to risk their life to do something, I will never tell any other person's child to risk their life for the same thing. Your lives are more important. Your life should be preserved for this, what I call this, getting politically active in a manner that is not threatening to you personally or to your business. I think we have to think about strategy. You have to be wiser than your opponent. And your opponent is not that smart. So don't make it easy for him. Don't gather somewhere like lambs for the slaughter. It's not necessary. There are different ways that you can progressively become politically active. Keep things alive by talking, by articles, by all kinds of things. Don't necessarily think that the only way is the original way, which led to a bloodbath. Because I value the lives of every single youth in this country. Their lives have to be preserved. Also, and I know the government will like this, the authorities, some people there in the country are very wicked people. I know how wicked they are. I know how wicked they can be. So let's not underestimate people who have a history of being very wicked.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that advice. So Nigerian youth, I I see a lot of Nigerians, flourishing outside the shores of Nigeria. A lot of them getting even into politics, being members of parliament in the UK, being in, advisors even in America. Even there's an attorney general that is Nigerian in one of the states in America. Yes. So, do you think that the youth in Nigeria will play an active role in the next elections?
Look, they can play an active role, and they can even play an even more active role is possible. Look, first of all, Harold Wilson, Prime Minister of UK, once said, "A week is a long time in politics." He said, "1 week is a long time in politics." The next election is 1.5 years away, at least, more than that. That's a long time. Some people say it's short. I say yes, but how long did it take for the NSAS spirit to come out? How many weeks did it take? How many days did it take? A week is a long time in politics. So I would never despair and think that just because today I don't see something, it can happen next month. Experience of history that it can happen overnight. How long did it take for the Arab Spring to start from Tunisia? If you're somebody who traveled and you went somewhere and you didn't follow the news and you put on your television a week after, you would think you were in a different world in Tunisia. So let's be careful, just because that's why I said people should preserve themselves and think strategic, because a lot can happen in 1 month, much less 1 year. Also, let me tell you one other thing. For those who want change, we are you're helped by the fact that every day you leave some people in charge, they make a mess of the nation, thereby increasing the likelihood or the potential for the type of change you are looking for. You see, if they were doing a good job, you will find it difficult to take it back from them, take control from them. But when people are doing a lousy job, they're actually preparing the grounds for you to eventually all decide enough is enough. So instead, and please, I'm not being emotional, I'm an economist by training. Go and check out simple economic data, GDP per capita. It has been below the rate of growth of it has been effectively, more or less negative since 2015. That's the reality. You can blame it on anything, oil price, or pandemic, and so on. Hey, if you're a leader, if you're in charge, you're supposed to deliver what? Security, prosperity, and all that. If you're delivering all that, you're very secure. If you are not delivering that, you can pretend all you like. You yourself know you're vulnerable deep down. Why would you think a simple thing like how you transmit election results from the polling booth to the center becomes a big issue? Because some people are afraid. They fear that if all these youths come out and vote with their anger and they count their votes, they may vote me out. So I want a situation where when I count the votes in the polling booth, I see the number against me. I have to be able to hurriedly go to the center and do something to sabotage, inflate, falsify, and so on. They don't have the confidence to say that result, announce it at the polling booth, transmit it, because I know I'm going to win. It's a person who knows that it's a problem. So he's thinking about, some of them got in there by rigging, we know. So they want to sort of use that same method that they've used. Why do you think there was always a big battle to enter the center for collation of election results in Nigeria? Why should that be of interest to anybody? Because they know that the system was flawed. People are manufacturing votes. Even Supreme Court at some point disappointed many of us, at least in one of their rulings. Because I think we should penalize all such actions. The law should be, you turn the law into an ass if you allow it to override the will of the people. So I think that people should just take solace in the fact that the same bad governance that you complain about is what makes it right for you to get politically active and makes it possible for you to embarrass those who have that political power because they're not delivering.
Thank you very much. One last question for me. So if you look at Nigeria now, it's not in a very good place in terms of the economy, in terms of insecurity, mutual trust between the nationalities making up Nigeria. So if you were, I'm picking my words carefully. If you were the president of Nigeria, what are the things you focus on? I know you advise the president, you advise the government. So tell us those things you say behind closed doors.
No.
What will you be
First of all,
doing?
don't dress me up in borrowed robes. I don't advise the president. The closest link I have to anything to do with the government is the medium-term national development plan, where I'm co-chair with the finance minister from the
But that's
private.
significant.
Yes, but you said I advise the president. I do not advise the president. Let me make it very clear. I've never gone and sat down in a meeting one-on-one with President Buhari. Never. So don't get me wrong. I'm not complaining. I mean, I don't have a right to that. I'm saying that I'm not among those with that kind of privilege or whatever.
Clear.
Yes, I'm just making it clear. So, but what I'm going to let you know is that you said, or should I say, we know the economy is going through a difficult time. I think let's just focus on that. The government too should know. Forget about all the claims people make. We've done better than X, we've done better than Y. You have to be telling us that if indeed you've done better than those before you. You have to keep on making excuses and blaming other people in the past and all that. So that all that tells you that the messaging even is not right, because you are claiming one thing, that you are successful, but the messaging is one of blaming others for the failure. So which is it? Are you successful or are you failing? You follow me? Does Usain Bolt win 100 meters gold in the Olympic Games, and at the same time blame the coach in Jamaica for doing a bad job, or blame those before him in Jamaica for messing up Jamaican sprinting? Oil and water don't mix. So the messaging is poor on their part, full of contradiction. So, but faith, I'm more concerned about the future and what we can do about the future.
You are more concerned, okay.
Yeah, I'm more about the future. Yeah, because to an extent, the past is gone. I'm more concerned about the future. And that's why I would sooner put the energy and the discussion shifted towards getting our youth to be politically active. Because at the end of the day, one of the last things I'm going to say, Akin, I'm no longer interested or impressed by the fact that, one Nigerian is in America. He has won so and so honors, the best so and so in this field or in the other field, another Nigerian in the UK. Hey,
why?
Let me explain. Was I ever in doubt that a country of 200 million people can produce one bright Nigerian who can do well in Australia or in the UK or what? Come off it by the number of averages. If we are 200 million, we can't all be dunces. So for me, to celebrate that is almost to say that I'm surprised. That the Nigerian is this clever. For goodness sake, I expect to find brilliant Nigerians in every field, all over the world. So I'm not going to waste my time celebrating that. What I want to put my energy into is to say, for how long are we going to be a country where almost every embassy of every rich country are people like queuing up outside, begging for visas or looking for a chance to emigrate? Who is going to repair the Nigeria so it becomes the place of our dreams? That for me is the challenge. And let's continue also. Do you know, right now I'm in the UK. I'm in the UK right now, you probably know. Do you know, I'm not even interested, but by my personality, in complaining that, the UK government, there's racism, there's something against the black, hey, as far as I'm concerned, it's their country. If you feel that strongly, go and repair your own country, Nigeria. Leave them to run their country the way they want. It's not your country. So for me, what matters is what we make of Nigeria. I don't I'll clap for the person who has done well in Nigeria, who has excelled in Canada, excelled in Germany. But it's not news. And in any case, I watched the video once. I'm almost going to show it on social media. Somebody, I think a man or a lady, was abusing a Nigerian overseas and saying, look, why do all of you come here, start making the rest of the nuisance in the Western world and so on? Why did you go back and repair your own country? It was very rude, very racist. You guys get the hell out of here. Go back to your own country. We don't want you here. We don't want you here. You're hanging around looking for jobs, disturbing and everything, complaining about this and that, and about racism. And then get out and go and repair your own country. See, that sentiment, of course, that message coming from a white person reacting to Nigerian immigrants may sound nasty. But do you see that in a sense? I understand, or I also believe that the priority is for us to fix our own country. It has to be. Germans are proud of their own country, what they've achieved, what Germans achieved. They don't pin their success or their glory on what one German in Brazil achieved. You have to be proud of Germany. Not only that, Nigeria is the largest country with the largest population with black race. To an extent, when we mismanage Nigeria, we demean the entire black race. Because we're the ones who should be leading the way. So we have something to do in our own country. And that's why people like me are never going to be content. If I'm in the UK, it's because I'm visiting. It's not my home. My home is Nigeria.
Thank you so much. Thank you, sir. Thank you for expressing your views quite passionately there. I think the passion came out clearly there. Thank you so much, sir. I'm mindful of the time. We just went over an hour,
Yes.
and I'd like to, sir.
No, go on, but we have to stop soon.
Yes, yes. No, I think we should let's just draw the curtain. Let's just draw the curtain, sir. I think it's been a great conversation. Before I wrap this up, I just want to ask if there's anything, in your mind, on your heart, anything you want to just drop, before we draw the curtain on this.
Yes, I think what I would like to point out is something that I said, but I want to emphasize it and close on that note. Please, because I see so much suffering in Nigeria. I know people who have financial difficulties, people who have lost what they have, people who even their investments have become valueless because they were invested the bulk of their money in this country. Currency has gone down the drain, all sorts of things. And so there's so much hardship and suffering in the land. And my plea to people is that the solution to that problem is not a bit of what some hooligans did when they hijacked the NSAS, start destroying the buses that we have, which will now make it more difficult for the poor people to move around and so on. That is self-destructive. You've got to channel that frustration, that disappointment in the correct area. It's got to be to become politically active. Get your voters card. Pick up the PVC. Get registered. Make yourself the beautiful bride that people realize, oh my God, there are 20 million newly registered youths. We better be careful with these people. What can we do to make sure that if they have to make choices, they will lean in that direction? But it's a big mistake to just sit at home and even fail to register. At that point, people will say, well, good, these guys are not even interested, so let us just go and do what we're doing. So that's what I would like to close. The first thing you've got to do, channel your anger towards getting a voter's card. The second thing you've got to do after registering, channel your anger towards picking up that PVC. I say that because in some parts of the country, to even pick up that PVC is an ordeal. They'll say, come today, come tomorrow, come day after. They'll always discourage you. Persevere and collect it. With that in your pocket, you can then become politically active, because you now have the means for people to now look at you, look at your numbers, and be worried about you. So channel your anger in that direction, not in the negative direction of destroying the little things that we have or we all need. Because guess what? Sometimes those leaders don't even need those things. If a leader has a fleet of private cars and a convoy as long as from here to God knows where, he doesn't need the bus. The bus is used by the workers and market women and everybody else. So destroying that bus is not doing anything. Let's channel the energy in the correct areas. So that's my message.
Thank you so very much. Thank you, Mr. Peterside. Thank you. It's been such a pleasure to have you, to have a conversation with you, and thanks for sharing your Sunday evening with us, and sharing personal stories and your experiences. Much appreciated. Please watch Mr. Peterside's Make Omar conversation. It's already on YouTube. Thank you very much, Mr. Peterside. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, please send me the link on YouTube, so I will post the link on my account on Twitter.
Okay, we'll do, sir.
Okay,
we'll do.
Best then.
We'll do. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Bless you.
Thank you. Amen. Thank you, sir. In the coming months, we're going to have a Make Omar conversation, Make Omar moment. We're going to be having Mark Pattenden. Mark Pattenden is the senior vice president for Shell in Canada. We're going to have Alexander Tarazov, is the chief financial officer of Gloria Jeans, as one of the largest retail networks in Russia and Kazakhstan. We're going to have also, before the end of the year, we're going to have Nathaniel Bassi. Nathaniel Bassi is an minstrel and songwriter. He hosts the Hallelujah Challenge with over 150,000 devices connected during this session. it's been a great one with you. Follow me on Instagram, on TikTok, on Twitter at the Akin Monehin, Facebook on I am Akin Monehin to get notifications. You also have access to watch other inspiring conversations if you are subscribed to my YouTube channel. Remember, you don't have to be great to start. We have to be great. Thank you.